tomorrow morning in Korea is the big one for the economy. That's when Trump meets Xi. And I have been talking to the president on a regular basis. He remains very optimistic. The United States is going to secure a good deal, trade deal, and that'll bolster the economy more. And that obviously is everything in the midterm elections. So the one thing that the Trump administration has not succeeded in is bringing the price of food down. And I can't predict that. Gas prices coming down. They're below $3 in my neighborhood now. And I think that will continue. But, you know, we, loyal Americans, and that lets out, I don't know, 20, 25% of the population, we're rooting for a good deal with China. Very, very important. And I'll give you the nuts and bolts in a moment. But the talking points memo now is about the disintegrating Democratic Party. Now, I don't want to overstate this, but the Dems are in trouble. So there is a think tank named Welcome. It's funded by left-wing money. Michael Bloomberg, Samuel Walton, Reid Hoffman, James Murdoch, all left-wingers. They pump a lot of money into this political action committee. So this study, and thousands of Americans. So what do you think about the Democratic Party? It wasn't all Democrats now, across the board. 70% of Americans believe, according to this study, Democratic Party is, quote, out of touch. All right, that number was 51% in 2013 when Barack Obama was president. Okay? So the Democratic Party from 51.5 thought it was out of touch back under Obama is now 70. That's a catastrophe. Now, there are strongholds of progressive thought, Boston, New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, that kind of thing. But the mass of people are going, you know what, this party's not doing it for us. Now, let me get specific about the study. So the people who are objecting to the Democratic point of view object to protecting migrants, top issue. They don't like the Democrats are doing that. Insisting on tax increases, okay, because Democrats want to raise taxes, all right? Involved with the gay trans stuff, that's hurt them, the Democratic Party. And basically being woke and politically correct all the time. Okay, so that's where the Democrats stand. They have a very weak hand. Jersey might vote for a Republican next Tuesday. If that happens, that's a big signal. In Virginia, I don't think the Republican candidate's going to win the governorship, and it's not impressing me very much. But Jersey, Reilly could win. Okay, on the GOP side, just for your frame of reference, they have a 65% negative rating with Americans, 65%, 5 points less than the Democrats of being out of touch. So you can see that Americans don't like either party. That's because too many games going. But the Republicans, 5% is a significant amount, particularly because the big urban centers, that's where people are. New York is 8.5 million people. Okay. Can the Democrats reverse it? I don't know how. They don't have a leader, a strong leader. Kamala Harris? Come on. Newsom? He's as progressive as you get. Who's going to be the leader that brings the Democratic Party back? Fetterman? Senator from Pennsylvania? I don't think so. So that's a problem, the leadership problem. Obviously, Republicans don't have that. They have a very strong leader in Donald Trump. So summing on up, if the Trump administration and the Republican Party can get the food under control, they'll sweep it next November. That's the memo. All right, President Biden's White House doctor, Kevin O'Connor, all right, on May 19th, your humble correspondent, that is me, said this. Go. The doctor who examined Biden, Kevin O'Connor, kept saying Biden's perfect health, mentally and physically. That just couldn't be true. So Dr. O'Connor has to be investigated, number one. And he is. Presto, House Oversight Committee, chaired by James Comer, a Trump ally. Okay? They are referring Dr. O'Connor to the Washington, D.C. Board of Medicine, okay, to take some action, that he should be disciplined, sanctioned, or even lose his medical license because he misled the American people. That's the conclusion the House Oversight Committee came to. However, the Democrats on the committee dissent. Of course they do. They're not going to admit that Biden didn't know what he was doing. And I wouldn't go that far, but I'll say he was impaired for most of his term, mentally impaired. And I do believe that he used narcotics to deliver State of the Union address and things like that. Remember that? Remember when he was jacked up? Okay. Anyway, I don't think anything's going to happen to Dr. O'Connor because it's Washington, D.C., which is 95% Democrat. I don't see it, but that's what's happening there. Bill Gates, billionaire, of course, you know him. He pumped $2 billion of his own money into funding global warming stuff, okay? Since 2015, $2 billion. And now he says, well, it's not that bad, global warming. Here's what he posted on gatesnotes.com. Quote, although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. Unquote, Bill Gates. Okay. So why the conversion? He doesn't say Gates, but I can't guess. And I've said from the very beginning, there is global warming. That's true. But you don't go crazy ruining economies with windmills when you don't know what you're doing. And the world doesn't know what it's doing right now. So the U.S. government is pledged to spend $500 billion, $500 billion on climate tech, clean energy over the next decade. I'm not opposed to clean energy. I think that's worthy, but you can't be building the windmills out in the middle of the ocean. Look, I got windmills near me. I can see them from my house. And they're broken all the time. And the windmills only give power to Block Island. That's Rhode Island territory. That's it. So it had to cost a couple of billion to put those windmills out there in the water. And what? 12,000 people get power from them? No. Okay? No. So Gates, he has seen the global warming light, but we don't really know why. There is a new book that you should know about. It's called Gold Bar Bob, The Downfall of the Most Corrupt U.S. Senator by Isabel Vincent and Thomas Jason Anderson. They are reporters for the New York Post. It is a good book. Okay, I am reading it now. Now, to make this interview easier, let us introduce you to former Senator Bob Menendez, who the authors say is the most corrupt senator in modern times. He was convicted on July 16th of 2024, conspiracy to commit bribery, conspiracy to commit honest services wire fraud, committing extortion under the color of official right, obstruct justice, 2 counts of bribery, more wire fraud, on and on and on and on. He got convicted of all of these counts, serving 11 years in the federal penitentiary in Allenwood, Pennsylvania, if you want to visit him or send him a Christmas card. This is a bad guy. All right. So Menendez, I've known for many years. In fact, his daughter is a television person, and I helped her when I was at the O'Reilly Factor. All right. Very nice woman. But her father was always, in my opinion, very corrupt. He is the son of Cuban immigrants, and he started in New Jersey with the help of a lot of powerful Cuban nefarious characters in Union City. Joining us now is Isabel Vincent from New York City. She's an investigative reporter for the New York Post, as mentioned, and co-author of Gold Bar Bob. So, yeah, the guy's corrupt, and all of us knew it. And he got off in 2013. He was charged, and then they has a mistrial. And then the Trump Justice Department didn't go after him, didn't retry him. I was stunned when I read that in your book, Isabel. Why do you think the Trump J Department let him go?
I think they couldn't pin anything on him at that time. And what's interesting is that Bob Menendez has always said that he is a victim of lawfare, like Donald Trump. After he was convicted, he started saying that on X, that everybody was after him. But we have to remember that it was the Biden Justice Department that went after him. And I think they went after him because they had such tangible proof of corruption. I mean, you'll recall that in the first days of the trial, the prosecutors gave the jury gold bars. They actually gave them gold bullion to hold on to and to sort of feel the corruption.
And that was taken from Menendez's house, right?
It was taken from his closet, and as well as almost $500,000 in cash was stuffed into his boots and into his jacket.
And his defense lawyer said what about that?
A few things that because he was Cuban and had been raised in a certain way, his father had always said, always have money at home. So he claimed he took out money every week from his bank account and just kept it at home. Unfortunately, the bills that the FBI found were new bills. They weren't bills that had come from 40 years ago, and the other thing he said was that his wife, who is also convicted of bribery and acting as a foreign agent, the same things he was convicted of. She said that she's from Lebanon, and in Lebanon, it's a traditional way to in families to give gifts of gold. So they tried to say that gold was from her family in Lebanon, but it was from people who wanted favors.
It's just foolish nonsense. But Menendez, I guess this week or last week, threw his wife, to use a cliche, under the proverbial bus. How did he do that?
So he started right from the beginning of his trial. They were indicted together, and then his lawyers decided that it would be best for both of them, or so they said, to do the trials separately. So during his trial, Menendez's main defense was that his wife, Nadine Menendez, his second wife, put him up to all of this. And
she made him do it.
What was to do the wrongdoing. And then what was strange was that Mrs. Menendez, at her sentencing hearing, put herself out there as a victim of domestic abuse and saying that Bob Menendez was the best guy she'd ever been with, except when he threw her under the bus during the trial. So she then threw him under the bus. Right. But then at the very end of the sentencing hearing, her lawyer asked Justice Sidney Stein, when can I go visit my husband? Because as a convicted felon, there are rules about, entering a federal prison.
Sure.
So it was just, it was all theater.
Here's what I don't understand. The first trial, where it was a mistrial and then they didn't bring it back for a second time, was pretty tawdry. You had women involved, and you had allegations that Menendez had 19 private jet flights paid for him. $750,000 in campaign funds went to him. And the people of Florida still reelected him. How can that happen? Florida.
Because
people of New Jersey. People of New Jersey. I'm sorry,
right.
all you Floridians.
No,
New Jersey reelected him.
Because he's such a powerful person. He had the backing of, he always had the Hispanic vote. He always had the anti-Castro vote. So he was able to rally, a lot of the Republicans who wanted the U.S. to be tough on Castro and on Cuba. I think that was like a big factor, but also because the trial took place in New Jersey. He's where he is, a favorite son. This new trial.
Why? Why wouldn't people turn against him? I mean, gold bar. This was before the gold bars. This was the first one. But the first one was salacious. He's running around with these guys.
And one of the most salacious things I discovered was that he had asked his benefactor, South Florida eye doctor, to his benefactor had asked him to get visas for all of his foreign girlfriends, and Bob just went into the Senate office and asked his agent, you need to get, this was something that had to be done right away, and there were all these bikini models and stuff like that. I couldn't believe that this was going on. But
you know what happened? I'm blaming it partially on the media, because the local television media didn't give this a lot of play. And I mentioned it, but I wasn't, on it. But I was surprised when the good people of New Jersey reelected Menendez. But he was wired into a lot of gangsters in Union City. I mean, this guy was really bad to the bone from the very beginning, correct?
Yeah, so we're talking about, in my book, in our book, we go back to Menendez in high school. Menendez, the corruption started then when he was given a place on the Union City School Board by his mentor, Bill Musto, who was the, product of the Democratic machine, the local Democratic boss in Union City. And at that time, we see Menendez dispensing favors to his family members. I mean, his mother gets a job with the school board. His sister gets a job with the school board. After Menendez is married, he gets married very early. I think he was in his early 20s. His wife gets a job with the school board.
Everybody gets a job, but that's Jersey. I mean, the Sopranos. We know that. Now, last question for you. Menendez, I understand, is angling for a pardon from President Trump. And it's to the Biden administration's credit that they went after him. The Justice Department and Merrick Garland convicted him, and he's in federal pen for 11 years. And you have to serve most of that time. It's not like state prison. You got to serve most of the 11. And his wife is going to be go to prison next summer, right? Nadine is on the way. What did she get? I forget what you had in there.
She got 4.5 years.
4.5. Okay.
The judge felt bad for her because of her breast cancer battle.
Got it. But Menendez, the rumor is that he's trying to get a pardon from Trump. Is that what you're hearing?
So I've heard that for many months. He was trying to get a pardon from Trump just after Trump was elected. But here's the thing. Menendez voted twice to impeach Trump during his
he's like Puff Daddy. It's like, I can't see it. Yeah, I can't see it. No, Menendez was absolutely in the Democrat machine. All right, the book is Gold Bar Bob. That's easy to remember. And if you want to know about corruption in the United States, and believe me, Menendez is not alone. He is not alone. And in confronting the president, Isabel, you might have noticed how corrupt Lyndon Johnson was, and he became president. My God. And I appreciate you coming on and talking about your book, Riz. Well, good luck with it. Here is the final thought of the day. So I'm writing my next book. It'll be out this time next year. It is called Confronting America. What has to change? What a bear. So we got to research and write. You got to start now to get it all done by about April or May so they can then set the type and all that. but everything's changing. So what has to change, some of it's already changing, so it's driving me nuts. But this is a very personal book, and I'm going to tell you a lot of stories you've never heard before. But this is what I do after I do this. So the old cliche is, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. I don't think I could get any duller. It's Bill, not Jack, but man, I'm working too much. Anyway, I'm going to take a little breather on Halloween and scare the kids. Thank you for watching the Newspin News. I'm Bill O'Reilly. We'll see you again tomorrow. Grim weekend, and we're going to get to the micro of it. Disturbing. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and, they're very upset about the anti-Semitic trend all around the world. And I wish there were some magic wand that could just dissolve that, but there isn't. So we're going to have to deal with it. But it's very difficult to deal with mentally unbalanced people. That always comes back to that. Confronting Evil, my new book, pretty much lays out why people do what they do. And sometimes you can incarcerate, execute, take the people off the planet. But other times, these are just ordinary people. You have no idea about the hate in their heart and the evil that they want to do and sometimes accomplish. And those people are, I think, mounting. I think it's getting worse. That's why I wrote Confronting Evil. But tonight we're going to get very specific about the problem and how we see it, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. So let's start with Brown University up in Rhode Island, Ivy League school. A gunman still at large while we are taping this. He might be caught later on. Killed 2 students, injured 9 others. At the science building, engineering and physics building on Saturday. Nobody knows who the guy is or motivation or why he attacked that building. Nobody knows. 2 students are dead. Mohammed Aziz and Ella Cook. All right, Ms. Cook, age 19, was the vice president of the College Republican Club. Mohammed Aziz, age 18, a brilliant science student, and his parents had immigrated here from Uzbekistan. All were U.S. citizens, okay? So those are the victims, and the 9 others are in the hospital. Then in Australia, one of the worst mass shootings that country has ever had, Bondi Beach, which is a very popular place outside of Sydney. I've been there. Was having a Hanukkah celebration party. 2 guys show up and they murder 16 people. Boy. That includes one of the gunmen who was killed by police. Now, there are allegations the police did not act quickly enough, but we don't know for sure, so we're going to hold back on that. Victims were aged 10 to 87, one a Holocaust survivor. Okay, so the murderer killed by police is Sajid Hakam, age 50, from Pakistan. Australia used to have very stringent immigration laws, but they lessened over the years. His son, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, is in custody. He survived the mass murder, and he is an Australian citizen. It would have been a lot worse if not for a man named Ahmad, age 43, who's a Syrian living in Australia. He attacked one of the gunmen and disarmed him. You can see that tape. It's been all over the world, and stopped one of them. Now, that's the father. The son shot Ahmad and injured him, and he's in the hospital, but he is a worldwide hero and saved many lives. So you can't generalize about this. You got a Syrian hero Pakistani villain, you can't be lumping everybody into the same category. Now, President Trump obviously had to react to this, and here's what he said over the weekend.
And in Australia, you probably read it's been a very, very brave person actually who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives. So very brave person who's right now in the hospital, pretty seriously wounded. So great respect to that man that did that. But we're here for a different reason. We're here to celebrate Christmas and to celebrate, and I think today we can very say loudly, we celebrate Hanukkah, because that was such a horrible attack. That was a purely anti-Semitic attack.
And it was. There's no reason for it. Nothing accomplished. Mentally unstable people, there's no doubt about it. And again, it's, I have in Confronting Evil, the first senseless murder was Cain and Abel in Genesis, the book of Genesis. I mean, and that story was put there for a reason. This is always going to be with us. Doesn't mean you accept it. Doesn't mean you turn away from it. That's the worst thing you can do. So if you see an unstable person, you let the authorities know. Okay, you can do it anonymously, but you let them know. You see somebody who's shaky or doing something. If you see somebody vandalizing, you call that 911 as fast as your thumbs can hit those numbers. And because the good people outnumber the bad people. And in terrible things like this, that becomes obscured. For every mentally unstable, evil people, I put the number of evil human beings at 15% of the world population. The problem is that with the good people, there are not 100% trying to mitigate the evil. A lot of people turn away. I don't want to be involved. I want to ignore it. Nothing I can do. I'm afraid. Whatever it may be. Wherever it may be. All right, you got to protect yourself. We all understand that, but you also have to get involved, in my opinion. So, Hanukkah's here. Christmas 2 weeks away. 10 days away. Jeez. We don't want you to be depressed. We want you to be realistic. We want you to read Confronting Evil, digest it, get a plan of action for yourself in case you encounter any of this stuff. And that's the memo. Joining us now from Nutley, New Jersey is Malka Shah, who founded an organization called Kesher Shalom Projects, which deals with anti-Semitism and the negative aspects of it. And she counsels people. She's a clinical social worker. We're very pleased to have Ms. Shaw on tonight. So in my analysis of evil, because that's what this is, in Brown in Australia, and it's just evil, am I making any mistakes or am I not going far enough?
No, I think, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today. It is evil and it should not be accepted. And I think that one of the things is when there's problems in society, people are naturally looking for a group to blame or put their resentment. But if we put our efforts into mental health and helping people before they get to the place where they are looking for an outlet for a scapegoat to, we also talk about propaganda and indoctrination and why these things are happening and why anti-Semitism specifically has been very strong and it's spreading and where we need to what we need to do in terms of helping people understand when they're being manipulated by propaganda, when they're being manipulated by the media, social media, and making sure that they're getting their information by reliable measures.
Okay, and that's all you got to do that to counter. But the rise in anti-Semitism, has been with us for, as you know, thousands of years. Any minority group that's successful, and Jewish people collectively have been successful all over the world, are going to be targets, and that's just the way it is. But the current anti-Semitism is driven in large part by the Israeli-Gaza situation, which has been hyped and propagandized. And the younger people, I'm generalizing now, particularly in Europe, are incorporating this and condemning all Jewish people. And I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, because that's ideological. That crosses over from religion into ideology. And these younger people, we see it. I mean, he's right across the river, Columbia University from you. And these people, totally out of control. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but there's kind of a wave of propaganda takes them. How do you combat that?
Well, anti-Semitism is like this virus that mutates. So when, first it was religion, then it was genetics, and now it's for the fact that we have a connection to a land. And that is pure anti-Semitism. So first of all, we have to counter the double standards. Anti-Semitism is full of double standards and dehumanization. You can't hold everybody responsible for one government, and never mind when we talk about what's actually going on in the Middle East, the information has been so diluted and so misrepresented. But just because you don't agree with something about one particular government, you can't say the entire government should be destroyed. Just like we might not agree with our government. Are you going to say, I'm going to hate everybody who's American or everybody who's this government? So the first step, I think, is education. We need to educate people on the fact that these pieces are anti-Semitism. When you hold a people accountable for one government or have one person responsible for the entire group, that is racism, that is discrimination,
Sure.
and
There
it needs to be
are innocent
called out.
people have nothing to do with government policy except they vote. I opened my book, Confronting Evil, and I hope you will read it if you haven't, Ms. Shaw, with the October 7th attack by Hamas. And I did that to contemporize the book, but also we put you right in that town. And talk about innocent people. I mean, these are farmers. These are people who make jojoba oil for a living. That has nothing to do with geopolitics. And these guys ride in on trucks and machine gun down women, show everybody. And instead of a worldwide condemnation of that, which there wasn't, it flips over to, well, the Jews are responsible for persecuting the Gazans who are controlled by Hamas. And I'm going, my God, you can say that maybe there was some excess on the part of the Israeli government. That's certainly a debatable issue. But if that happened in America, believe me, we would obliterate any country or any area that harbored those kinds of terrorists. We would. So it's more deep-seated, this anti-Jewish thing. And I think a lot of it's based on jealousy. I got to be honest. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I had never had any problem with them. I'm in business with a lot of them. I was raised in Levittown. There were Jewish kids all over the place. We all got along. We all played in the streets. There was none of that nonsense. And anybody who ever said an anti-Jewish thing would get the hell beat out of them by the rest of the kids. We didn't tolerate that, or anti-black stuff either. It was around a little bit, but not a lot. But anyway, I don't know how you educate. That's my long-winded question. How do you educate people whose minds are poisoned?
Well, there's definitely different steps. So first of all, it depends who we're educating. So I've been doing continuing education for mental health professionals and other professionals who are required to do what we call not just cultural competence. Cultural competence is how I was trained maybe 20, 25 years ago. Now we talk about cultural humility, steps of understanding our own bias and our own lens, and how do we see other cultures and understanding our own bias. So that's step one. But one of the things that's been a mistake is just really not understanding who are the Jewish people. There's a big misconception. People will be in shock when I explain that we're a multicultural, we're a multiracial people. It's not just a religion. It's really a peoplehood. And the idea of religion and ethnicity are concepts that, like, Judaism predates those concepts. So we have to really just kind of explain who we are. And the second thing.
Oh, go ahead. Get me a second.
Go ahead. Sorry. What were you going to say?
I have a question, but it's a little bit off topic. Do you want to make one more quick point on the second thing?
It's okay. You could go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. 50% of New York Jews who went to the mayoral polling places voted for Mandami, who's an anti-Semite. And then people were shocked. What? How could you possibly do that? Did you have any explanation of that?
I don't. I mean, I'm very upset about it. I try not to stay away. I try and stay in my lane. Which is
No,
the
I
Trump.
understand, but you're a human being.
But yes, it's very
You
upsetting.
know, like,
It's
whoa.
very heartbreaking. I actually wrote an op-ed and it was posted in the Jerusalem Post. It's very upsetting. I was living in New York City and I was involved in the post 9/11 recovery and the post-traumatic growth from 9/11. And I was there. And I cannot imagine as a New Yorker, who I was born in New York City. I love New York. My first word was taxi. As a New Yorker first, that we now have a mayor who doesn't want to condemn the phrase globalized Antifada. So it is mind-blowing, just even as a New Yorker. So that part of my personality, 100%.
Yeah, I know.
And then the Jewish part of my personality, it's unbelievable. And when we talk about 9/11, the one, you know, when 10/7 happened, people used to say, oh, this is the Jewish 9/11. And I said, no. When 9/11 happened, everybody had empathy for the Jews. As soon as 10/7, as soon as 10/8 hit, the silence was deafening around the world. We didn't, and before Israel even responded, everybody was attacking. There was protests in Colombia, protests in New York City. So by the time Mandani was elected, was it shocking? It was hurtful and upsetting. Was it shocking? Unfortunately, no.
I blame it on
Because that's
secularism. That's what I blame it on. People just don't you said it very well. They don't understand. They really don't, and they should take the time to learn what the truth is. Ms. Shaw, we wish you a happy Hanukkah, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. Final thought of the day: a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, December 23rd, right? Last broadcast of the year. And it's going to be all you and me. I'm going to take questions that you have about anything. If you don't understand, if you disagree with me, whatever you want to say, all 42 minutes is going to be devoted to that. So think about a good question and then send it to Bill O'Reilly, one word, BillO'Reilly.com/live. BillO'Reilly.com/live. It's a special little thing. And we're going to be into a lot of them. And we are very interested to hear what you think about 2025, what you would like to see in 2026. Again, quibbles with me, we love them. Okay, we do not shy away from criticism here, as most others do. We are not faint of heart, to use a cliche. One other update in the final thought: I had to take Thursday off for medical procedure. It went well. I have great doctors, and they are, keeping me on the field. Okay, I compare myself to Aaron Rodgers. I thought I was going to get some angry mail. I didn't. But I'm trying to hang in as long as I can hang in. I can still throw the ball down the field, as you know. But I went in there, and it was a purely preventative thing. Okay, so I wasn't feeling quite as, a little this way. They do the little tests and the blood and all, and then and they said, okay, do what you have to do to correct it, whatever it may be. I'm not afraid of that. Okay, a lot of people are afraid of the doctor. I'm not. And I understand that with your teeth, dentistry, with any medical stuff, if you're not feeling real well, here's my tip. You give it a week, 7 days, unless you're really in pain, then you have to go to the ER. But if it's just something, you know your body, you're off a little bit. In a week's time, if it doesn't get better, then you got to go. You got to go in. But a lot of times it gets better. Okay? So that's what I do. And as you get older, these things happen. You got to accept it. You don't accept it, you're a poltroon. You gotta accept it. But we're staying on the field as long as we can stay on the field. Why? Because we like you. As they used to say in the Mickey Mouse Club, which is like obsolete now. Nobody remembers that. Thank you for watching and listening to the No Spin News. We'll see you again tomorrow.